The Sikh Maharaja's life of hunting and parties now takes a darker turn. Hi, I'm Arich.
And I'm Mishta, and welcome to Tarikhi Tales.
Okay, so we're picking up from where we left off, and as we know it now, the Maharaja is kind of like busy partying his heart out. And a lot of things are going to change in the story, and it really gets darker. And like most problems that come in life, the first one that really hits the Maharaj in his face is something all of us can really think about easily. Is he's partying his heart out, he's spending money like water, and now what does he have? Financial problems. The Maharaja now had 6 children, and the British were paying him £25,000, even though they had agreed upon £40,000. And this was in accordance with the Treaty of Lahore. But when he asked for the actual compensation, his plea fell on deaf ears because all the people actually involved with the Maharaja who knew his circumstances and understood what was required of them had all passed away, namely Dr. Logan, Dalhousie, and Harding. And even though the Maharaja was really close with the Queen, she was even godmother to his children. In terms of financial matters, she was like, sorry, can't help you there. We took all of it. So, in a desperate attempt, he reached out to the Indian Council in a plea that in the War of Independence, his home in Fatehgarh was ransacked, and the compensation for his loss was coming out to be around £25,000. But the council replied not only a year late, but they also said that they could only give £3,000 at most. And the Maharaja was offended and he declined the offer. The council instead offered him this solution that he should kind of sell his estates and get a big loan. He agreed to the offer, although he was distraught by it, and he wrote to the queen, no one knows but myself, my sovereign, the agony that I suffered when I was turned out of my house in exile, from the land of my birth, and I shudder to think of the sufferings that my poor boy may undergo.
So, obviously, the Maharaja was feeling very helpless at this point. And if you remember from the last video, we mentioned that his mother came and lived with him, and she opened him up to the world where she tells him of all the riches and all the lands that he once used to own that were taken by the British. And some of them were taken unjustly because they were his private property, not the property of the Kingdom of Punjab. And so the Maharaja decided that it's time that he challenges the crown and asks back for what is his right. And he realizes that in order to do this, he needs some more information. He needs to find the documentation related to the annexation of Punjab. Now, in order to do all the research, he decides to move to London for a bit. So he moved to London, where he not only moved closer to the nightlife, but also to the British Library. And it is here that the documents for the annexation of Punjab were basically held. So he started spending a lot of time in the library, and a lot of locals actually noted this. They said that they see an Asian figure looming over books the entire time, and he's making vigorous notes at the same time. And this actually did come to fruition because he then comes out with a book with the help of Major Evans Bell. And this book is titled The Annexation of Punjab. Now, the book basically lays blame to Lord Dalhousie that when the revolt in Multan started, it could have been contained. The Multan revolt was allowed to foster and allowed to spread by the British, and they used it as an excuse to annex Punjab. This could have been true, but the book was heavily criticized in England and it did have some um, problems. Like it did have some incorrect facts, and Duleep Singh actually did work on correcting them later in his life. So Duleep Singh basically fought the British by pen in the day, and at night he had a train of beauties surrounding him and kept him busy. Another thing he was working on was getting in touch with the viceroy and asking permission to go visit India. And this time his argument was अच्छा. This time, his argument was that I'm a British citizen, and since that's part of the empire, I should be able to go. There should be no reason to stop me whatsoever. But the viceroy was basically like, excuse me, ex Maharaja? No, because he knew that if the ex Maharaja of Punjab ended up in India, it could lead to a whole other uprising, and that's not at all what the British wanted. He made some more petty attempts. He basically reached out to publications and, asked them to write about him and rally people to his cause, but obviously that didn't work out. And then he decided to go a different route. He reached out to his cousins in India and basically told them to start gathering any and all information and documents they could get about the annexation of Punjab from within Punjab. Now, as a result of this, in November 1883, one of the cousins of the Maharaja, Sardar Thakur Singh, basically sent in a detailed report containing the properties and all the other things that he used to once own and that were taken by the British. And along with the report, soon there was an entire delegation of people from Punjab, which included this cousin Thakur Singh and some other cousins of Maharaja Duleep Singh, who came to England to visit the Maharaja himself. And this party came with a mission. They wanted to get Duleep Singh back into Punjab. So the entire party basically moved into the estate of Duleep Singh and was living with him. And at the same time, they started educating him on what had happened, like the Maharani did before, right? They educated him on what had happened in Punjab. And it's during one of these sessions that they also told Duleep Singh of a prophecy. The prophecy basically revolved around a Sikh king. It said that a Sikh king would be dispossessed, he would be reduced to poverty, he would then marry a Christian woman, and there would be a time when a war would start between the bulls and the bear, and this is the British and the Russians. And when the war starts, that Sikh king would re-emerge and take back his kingdom. But turns out the guy who was writing these prophecies was the British spy. So his name was Sardar Atar Singh Bahadur, and he was basically paid by the British to gather information about the Sikh movement in Punjab. And at the same time, he came up with this idea to write these prophecies, and he wrote multiple prophecies. This was just one of them to basically throw the Maharaja off.
So now, the Maharaja decided once and for all it was time to leave England behind and go to India. And he announced this quite publicly. And to kind of gather funds for this journey, he sold off his jewels and some of his valuables, such as shawls and carpets. He planned to leave for India on 16 December 1885. And the reason he stated to the officers was, "In order to provide my family with such a home in India as shall not be sold on my death." He also mentioned that he had intentions to visit Abjal and convert back to Sikhism. The British government reluctantly agreed to this, but they were still hesitant and only allowed the Maharaja to reside in the presidency of Madras in South India. He still wasn't allowed to go to Punjab, and in fact, the British were so desperate to stop his attempts that they told him that forget all about this business of going to India and dealing with your properties or whatever. We'll just give you £50,000 and we can all just settle this quietly. And we won't go into details, but Maharaja Dalip Singh did give some interviews that shed light on the fact that even the £50,000 sum was insignificant to the actual cost of all the properties and assets that Dalip Singh actually owned. But the Maharaja, at this point in time, has now bigger goals in sight than just obtaining funds for his family.
Tell us what you think. Make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more.